Take control of your mind and your thoughts and focus on your breathing. Feel the power of you, the real you, controlling your breathing. The real you is always present right now. You are more powerful than you can ever begin to imagine, because you get to focus on the greatest gift ever. Now, your presence, where your attention is being drawn to now, no matter what's going on outside your mind. Feel the power of your breathing. There are astronomical numbers of things going on in one breath. That's how powerful you are. That's how powerful your determination is. So let's use that power. Let's use that third eye, that mind's eye that we all have. Let's use it right now. And let's see ourselves doing the best we can on all the stretches and exercises today in our gym period. Gym, G-Y-M, grow your mind. And here we are in the gym of life. Growing our minds and growing our bodies. Taking control of what we truly are. Simply being. Human being, the most powerful energy thing in the universe. That's who you really are. So see yourself right now. See it in your mind. Because whatever you see in your mind, you can make real with your eyes open. Everything created with your eyes closed can be made real with your eyes open.
rock is in the house tonight. Everybody just have a good time. Yeah. And we gon' make you lose your mind. Woo. Everybody just have a good time. Party rock is in the house tonight. Oh. Everybody just have a good time. I can feel it. And we gon' make you lose your mind. Yeah. We just wanna see you shake that.
Party rock, looking for your girl, she on my jock, Now stop when we in the spot, booty moving weight like she on the block. With a drink, I got to know, top jeans tattoo, cause I'm rock, half black, half white diamond now, gang of money, open up.
Yo, I'm running through these halls like Drano, I got that devilish flow, rock and roll, no halo, we party rock. Yeah, that's the crew that I'm repping on a rise to the top, no lead in our Zeppelin. Hey, party rock is in the house tonight. Woo! Everybody just have a good time. Yeah, and we gon' make you lose your mind. Everybody just have a good time. Let's go. Party rock is in the house tonight. Everybody just have a good time. Chillin', and we gon' make you lose your mind. We just wanna see you shake that.
Alves. Looking for Messi. Oh! To the next stage. Messi.
Hi again, everybody. Today, Sadhguru shares his wisdom in his first rule, enhance your perception. So I want us to think about that. Enhance your perception. Your perception, the way you look at things, is not necessarily the way it is. In fact, it's not. It's simply all your life experiences, your what we call paradigms, your scripts, the things that have happened to you, the outside conditions, and how you've responded to this point. So let's work on enhancing our perception and using our intelligence. Like I said before, and what I believe is we are infinitely intelligent. We are created and seen and born in the likeness and image of God, source, universe, however you want to refer to this power. So enhancing our perception means we have to use the most powerful thing, our thoughts, to change the way we look at things. If you think there's a problem, that very thought is the problem. It's up to you. Have a great day, everybody.
We are here to talk about boundaries. And as I was sitting here thinking about, okay, there's so much to talk about. There's so many boundaries that we need to set, like where do we even start? And so I thought, you know what, I'm actually just going to focus on the boundaries that I found that was the most challenging for me. There are boundaries that you set with friends, with people that you don't know, strangers maybe that you meet in the street that you feel like have crossed the line. For me, the hardest was actually setting boundaries with people that I love, people that are in my life that I actually want to have great relationships with, parents, siblings, things like that. And those were the hardest for me to actually set because I always wanted to be liked. I wanted my family to love me, to accept me. And so I had a very terrible time in setting those boundaries. So that's actually what I'm going to teach today is how to set the really hard boundaries with people in your life whose relationships you actually want to improve. Okay, so where I'm going to start is telling you guys a little story. We have Impact Theory University, and I was on a Q&A with one of my students, and the student turns around and she tells me this story. And she says, Lisa, I've just had a newborn baby. She's 3 months old. And I just started my career. I built my business and it was just taking off as I got pregnant. And it's the most amazing thing. I love having my own business. It makes me thrive. I love being a parent. And yet every night, my dad comes over for dinner. And when he comes over for dinner, he keeps just saying, well, what about your child? You keep neglecting your child. And every day he was like wearing on her. And she really found it really difficult because she was like, I love my career. It was really hard for me to step up and say, this is what I want in life. And yet now here I am being judged by my family and I don't know what to do. Help. And so I said, okay, well, you need to set boundaries right now. You have a choice. She's like, no, I don't have a choice, Lisa. And I said, okay, let's just actually assess the situation. So you go to work, you come home. How does your dad come over for dinner? She's like, well, he comes in the door. I'm like, okay, does he have a door key? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, so you open the door. Yes, I open the door. Do you acknowledge that that's a choice? She said, well, I can't not let my dad in. I said, I understand that doesn't sit well with you. But do you recognize that either way, letting your dad in your house is a choice? You may not like the choices. You may say, I would rather be uncomfortable with my dad telling me what a bad mother I am than telling my dad that he can't come in the house. I get it. But you have to acknowledge that it's a choice. You have to start with recognizing that the boundaries that we choose to set or not set, or the boundaries that we allow people to overstep, is a choice. That doesn't mean it's easy. That isn't me hearing saying, so just do it. No. All I'm saying is if we can all acknowledge right now that we do choose, then I think the rest of what I'm about to teach will be able to really digest. And I really want you guys to actually take action. I'm not here just to make you feel motivated just for like a few minutes. I really want you to take away what these lessons so that you can actually use them in your life. So that's where I wanted to start. I have to start with everyone right now acknowledging that whether we like it or not, the boundaries are a choice. Okay. So now you may say, but Lisa, I have no idea where to start. The idea of even setting a boundary is so crippling to me because I've had my entire life where I just haven't. And I'm actually going to challenge you again on this and say, you guys all do have boundaries. And I'm going to tell you another little story that is a perfect example of this. So I don't know if you've heard of the David Foster Wallace story that he told at like a commencement speech. And it's this story where these two little fish are swimming along. And then one big fish is swimming the other direction. And he says to the little fish, what up, boys? How's the water? And the two little fish keep swimming along. And one of them turns to the other one and is like, what the hell is water? Now, because the fish had been surrounded by water their entire lives, they didn't even realize they were surrounded by water. Now, guys, we've all been swimming in boundaries our entire lives. We just haven't taken ownership over where that boundary line is and what's the circumstances or what's going to happen if someone crosses the boundary. So actually, I found that to be the most beautiful thing because now at least I don't feel like I'm starting from scratch. It's kind of like, oh, I have boundaries and now all I need to do is like mold them. That's a little less scary for me. So that was why I wanted to tell that story, because hopefully if anyone at home right now is being so petrified and fearful about setting the boundary in the first place, maybe even just pivoting the idea of how we've already addressed boundaries may help you to actually now enter them. All right. So then now I'm going to go on to the different types of boundaries, because knowing what type of boundary you actually need to set is going to be imperative, because everything I'm now going to say, clarity on the boundary is going to be your North Star. You have to know what boundary type, who you're going to set the boundary with, why you're setting the boundary, and then how to set the boundary. So the type of boundary, the who, the what, and the why. Because before you go into any situation, guys, at least for me, I used to get my emotions would be so tied up in trying to set the boundary that I wasn't able to articulate it properly. I wasn't able to do it with like emotionally sober when my emotions are even kill. I would kind of come in and just being like a bit of a bull in a china shop. It's like, all right, and I'm gonna set this boundary and you can't cross it, because I was so fearful because I didn't actually have clarity. And I was so worried about someone pushing back. So having clarity on your boundary is going to be imperative. The type of boundary, you've got material boundaries. So that's over like your clothes, like you want to borrow your friend's dress because you're going to a party, or a boundary that I had to put with my husband, because during COVID, as I was whenever I work, me and my husband are very precise on how much time we spend on things. I spent 8 years of my life being stuck serving someone else. So you better believe, guys, where every second of my time goes, I pay attention to. And so I was finding the habit of my husband was stealing my charger, my laptop charger. So my laptop was showing the blinking sign. I knew where I put my charger. I would run over to it. The charger was gone. And I'd be like, for heaven's sake. And so I used to get frustrated and I was running around. And this little frustration, this little friction actually starts to build. And before I know it, I'm just annoyed with my husband over other stuff. And I realized it was because he kept taking my charger. I wasn't articulating to him why he needs to stop taking my charger. And I just need to politely put out a boundary. Now, that's a simple little small one of how a material thing can actually end up stacking up. Or here's another example. Imagine you go to your friend. This is the other way of setting boundaries. So if someone's setting boundary with you, you go to your friend and you've got this big event and you're like, you know what? I don't really have like a really nice suit jacket and I really want to wear a suit jacket. Oh, my mate has one. I'm going to go ask them. Now, when you go ask them, what if they turned around and said no? You'd be like, well, that's a bit mean. Like, what can't I ask it? And then they proceed to tell you, because the last time you borrowed something from them, you didn't return it on time and you didn't get it dry cleaned. Now, maybe they haven't articulated it to you. So their boundary where they just say no seems surprising. But if you actually backtrack and see why they had to set the boundary with you because your past behavior, you can understand. Maybe, hopefully, in hindsight, oh, yeah, I guess I did do that. And so I understand the boundary. If you can understand from the receiving end, now I think it can be easier to actually do on the putting the boundary. If someone has come up to you and asked you for a favor or something like that, and past experience says that you don't know if you can trust them, then I would suggest to be honest with them about the situation and why you were setting the boundary based on their past behavior. If it's someone that is in your life, having that clarity, being articulate, then allows you to have a good relationship. Like back to my husband. If I just started having a go at him over like, stop doing this and stop doing that, he'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? But the fact that I sat him down and I said, babe, this is my boundary. You keep taking my charger. This is why it impacts me, because over time, I start to lose time and traction if I'm being creative. So my boundary is, please don't take my charger. Or the alternative is, if you do, please return it. That is me being very articulate about the boundary, being very clear about the boundary. And now it just stops the crazy bickering that couples have, business partners have, friends have. And that, my friends, is how you take a material boundary and allow it to actually build your strength in your friendship instead of let it pull you apart.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up.
Are you ready to bubble? Bubbling, everybody bubbling, everybody bubble, bubble, bubbling, 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 everybody bubbling, everybody bubble, bubble, bubbling, 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 bubbling, dance all night, we go dance all night. Yo, are you ready to bubble? Dance all night, we go dance all night. Ha ha, me want to see ya. Dance all night, we go dance all night. Dance all, dance all, dance all, dance. All right, y'all. Are you ready to bubble? Bubbling, everybody bubbling, everybody bubble, bubble, bubbling, 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 everybody bubbling, everybody bubble, bubble, bubbling, 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 everybody bubbling, everybody bubble, bubble, bubbling, bubbling, everybody bubbling, little bubble, bubble, bubbling, bubbling, everybody bubbling, everybody bubble, bubble, bubbling, 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 everybody bubbling, everybody bubble, bubble, bubbling, 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 everybody bubbling, everybody bubble, bubble, bubbling, 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 everybody bubbling, little bubble, yo, bubbly, 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 bum bum bum, bubbly, 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 bum bum bum, bubbly, 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 bum bum bum, bubbly, 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 bum bum bum. bottle just popping. We going on, I guess I'm making a stop. Let's party hard tonight. So going non-stop until the sunlight. We going non-stop until the sunlight. The club done full, only woman inside. It's a good night to get we head tight. It's a good night to get we head tight. Couple up this party going for a flight. Green drinks, we don't care about that.
Reinhardt's all over him. Still he goes, Messi gets it through to Alves. Dani Alves fires it across and it's turned in by Lionel Messi.
Good morning, everybody. Last night I had the pleasure of going to see Raymond Aaron and another amazing presentation on the importance of finding a mentor or finding mentors for our life. We might be feeling that this path to personal growth and development, which is never ending, might be a little bit intimidating, or you might come on here and watch me do these videos and you think, well, this all sounds good, Nick, but how can I apply it to my life? Where do I begin? Or maybe there's thoughts in your head that you don't even want to begin because it seems overwhelming. Well, it's the day-to-day and step-by-step process that we have to enjoy, but we can't do it on our own. So we have to look at people that have done it and are continuing to do it every single day. So we need mentors. We need at least one mentor and perhaps many in different aspects of life. Even the greats like Raymond Aaron still do it. Have a great day, everybody.
We have choices of where to put our investment dollars. Put it in stocks, put it in bonds, you can put it in real estate, you can put it in commodities, put it in gold. Is gold good or bad? Are stocks good or bad? Are bonds good or bad? They all have their purpose at certain points in time. It's relative to what you could be doing, which is where it becomes interesting. Gold is a better way. Just highlighted one very simple fact, which is Wall Street tells us to own stocks and bonds, and yet gold has dramatically outperformed stocks and bonds over a very long period of time. And my summary on why that is in a growth environment, paper assets are what you want to own. In a debt environment, you want to own gold, because ultimately gold, and this is what most people really don't get, gold is simply a referendum on the US dollar. 90 years ago, a $20 bill and one gold coin were the same. They were equal, okay? It was the value of gold. They were interchangeable, by the way. We were on a gold standard, so you could walk into a bar with a gold coin, you could walk in with a $20 bill and buy the whole bar drinks if you wanted. They were the same. By 1971, 1 ounce of gold was $42. By the year 2000, 1 ounce of gold was $250. Today, gold's somewhere around $2,000. So gold has gone up 100 times over the last 90 years relative to the dollar.
Money Revealed is an exclusive video series where self-made millionaires share their secrets on how they got rich. In this episode, you'll learn why you need to buy gold, how to make smart investments, and secure your financial future. These are the lessons that they don't teach you in school about making money. And we've partnered with the series creator Jeff Hayes to bring it to you on my YouTube channel. Enjoy.
Gold, 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 precious metals. We keep hearing about it. People talk about why we need to be in metals right now, especially gold is the conversation. It's throughout this series. It's in the headlines all the time. It's controversial. Some people think that you don't need it. Some people think you absolutely have to have it. Well, you're about to get a deep dive into gold. My partner and the producer of this series, Jeff Hayes, sits down with a guy who is one of the most compelling people I've ever met when it comes to talking about this subject, and that's Adam Baratta. He has written books on this. He talks about what's going on economically right now. He's anticipated and predicted a lot of what's going on in the midst of this crisis, and his accuracy has been chilling. So Jeff sat with him. It's a two-part interview because there's so much ground to cover, but you're going to learn some things that you absolutely need to know and understand if you care about your financial future. So enjoy this interview with Adam Baratta.
So, Adam.
Yes.
Thank you for being here with us today.
It's my pleasure.
I've been looking forward to this. A little bit of a disclaimer. We met close to a year ago We interviewed you. I was blown away. So I'm actually a customer of yours, and so there's a disclosure piece.
You are, yes.
So yeah, so I fall in the category of true believer. I'm really excited to let you share your info. I kind of want to start with your book. This was really interesting to me. You were publishing a book. It was on schedule before the COVID hit, and really predicted everything that's happening anyway. And so, as opposed to having to go back and change your book, is more like you went back and added some editorial. It's like, and it's with kindness. It's kind of like, see, I told you so. Not only is it that, it's even worse. Let's go back to what got you interested in the topic that you wrote your book about. Tell me how you came to this.
Okay, great. So I was not in the financial services business 7 years ago. I was actually in the entertainment business, and had some big things that happened over there. A big deal with Stan Lee, the superhero writer, Marvel Comics. Deal with the NFL and then the NHL. Then that kind of all went sideways, and I found myself unemployed with no real talent because I was in the movie business, and I needed a job. And I had a friend who had a job at a gold company. And I asked him if he could get me a job. And on the first day, I got hired, and I got a script. It was a one-page script, and said, "Here, go sell gold." And I was, freaked out. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea, it was physical gold inside of qualified accounts, IRAs. I didn't know what an IRA really was. And I decided if I was going to try and sell people on something, I better, number one, believe in it, and number two, really understand as much as I could about it. And that journey really led me to this story that I just became, incredibly attracted to and overwhelmed by, because it's a big story. And the more I got into it, the more I realized this is the story I'm supposed to tell. This is the story that people need to hear, because it's one that most people don't get. So I started writing content for our clients, for gold. The transition happened where I became so passionate about gold, I became one of the top gold salespeople at the firm. And I didn't really like the way gold was marketed. Gold is marketed with this, fear-based, doomsday kind of thing, and it's what sells. It's what it's where gold is marketed. But I don't see gold in that way. In fact, what I was learning was a completely different story than that, and that's what I was talking to people I was talking about. And I sat down with my friend, who was also an excellent salesman and also really had the same kind of belief system, and said, "Look, I think we can do this better. I think we can do this better for the client with better education," and we decided to form our own firm. And that was in 2014. We started with 2 employees, and through that process began me writing to try and point people to the things that I was seeing that were so that I didn't think people got that publicized enough. There's a Wall Street model. That Wall Street model is one that most of us follow blindly. And because I wasn't from the industry, because I wasn't someone who, came up in that, I should have been. I was supposed to do my JD MBA at Wharton and Penn out of college, and told my dad I'm going to go to LA and be in the movie business. So I had, friends, family that are lawyers and, financial advisors and hedge fund managers. And so I'm very familiar with that kind of training and upbringing. And I think because I came to it from the outside, just looking at this story, it really was something that I thought people needed to hear. So that culminated in the first book, which was Gold is a Better Way, and Other Secrets Wall Street Doesn't Want You to Know. And the big conclusion, I guess, of that book was that the equity markets are really fueled by the Federal Reserve. At the time, the Federal Reserve was promising they were going to raise rates. They're going to normalize. We had 7 years of 0% interest rates, and now we're going to start raising them. And they were also going to start taking money off the balance sheet. And that was happening.
So hold on right there, because what does it mean for the Fed to take money off of the balance sheet?
Great question. So what the Federal Reserve does, they control the money supply. That's their job, okay? And the balance sheet is the way they measure the money supply, the way they measure, how much money has been created by the Fed. And what the Federal Reserve holds on the balance sheet is actually paramount to some of the things we probably want to talk about. But that's what the Fed does, is they control the money supply. And when they lower rates and add to the balance sheet, it's called monetary easing, okay? And when they raise rates and take money off the balance sheet, it's called monetary tightening. And the premise was markets aren't higher because of growth. Markets are higher because of debt. And that debt has been fueled by low rates, by monetary ease. And so we are in a Fed bubble. And when the Federal Reserve raises rates, the bubble's going to pop. They're going to collapse the stock market. And that's exactly what happened. And it coincided with the first book, pub date. It was published on August 14th. And in Q4, the stock market dropped 19%. Bonds dropped dramatically as the Fed tightened and took money off the balance sheet.
What year was this?
This is 2018. Yeah, this is the fourth quarter of 2018, and it's what began Donald Trump, attacking the Federal Reserve on a daily basis, because he had been promoting the stock market every day as this is, it became his calling card. And my producer and I did a documentary on the thing. We actually won a Telly Award for it. Well, funny story, 25 years in the entertainment business, I never got an award, and here I am, just a couple years into this business, and I
finally get awarded for your talent.
Yeah, I got like this, and so, but Donald Trump was attacking the Fed for that very reason. Is these policies are headwinds for financial assets. So the first book was published at the same time this is happening, and it made me look like I had some sort of crystal ball. But it really wasn't that difficult to, see if it's what you're looking at. And what I track and what I show in the first book is that the Federal Reserve balance sheet and the stock market since 2008 have literally gone hand in glove. And so if the balance sheet goes down, it's pretty good expectations that the stock market would go down. And so when the Fed pivoted, when they stopped raising rates and when they stopped taking money off the balance sheet, I was right on top of it because this is what they promised everyone they were going to do. And the conclusion of that book was they're going to, collapse the markets, but they pivoted very quickly. And I think Donald Trump had a very big hand in that pivot because of his pressure. And then what happened is then they not only started cutting rates, then they started secretly adding to the balance sheet back. Something that they, has been called not QE, and the balance sheet, starting in August of 2019, started going up $50 billion a month. So for those reasons, I'm looking at the balance sheet saying, okay, I can look at financial assets through what the Fed does to the balance sheet, and that led to the Great Devaluation.
So let's talk about the Great Devaluation.
Okay.
First off, love the title, love the book. And again, what was unique about this book is that it was right on target before the pandemic, and the pandemic has really amplified and sped up a lot of what you talk about in the book. So walk me through the Great Devaluation, the case for it.
Sure. So because these things happen so quickly, we did a gold summit in August of 2019 on the 1-year anniversary of the book being published. And I called that presentation the Great Devaluation. And I laid out 10 chess moves to checkmate for the US dollar. See, what I was talking about is not linear, okay? It's something these are like chess moves. And when you're playing chess against a master, even though the game isn't over yet, when you make the wrong move, it's just a certain number of moves to checkmate. And so that was the idea, is we just have a certain number of moves now to checkmate. And the Federal Reserve, as a tool in a recession, lowers interest rates 5%, 500 basis points. At the time, when they pivoted, they were at 2.25%. So the highest they could get them to is 2.25%. And then they stopped. And then they started cutting rates. And so the question I was asking was, well, okay, how do you take 5% from 2%? And the answer is a simple minus 3%, right? So it was that idea, okay, well, what does minus 3% really look like in real terms? Well, that means if you have $100,000 in the bank, paying a negative 3%, that $100,000 is now going to be worth $97,000 in a year. Okay? So negative rates, which were happening, by the way, in Europe and other places, is something that is not sustainable long term, because people will start to hoard. People will start to, why keep my money in the bank if I have to pay a fee? Okay? And that ties back to the history of gold and, you know, where gold fits with the dollar. And that presentation was seen by a big publisher, and they said, we'd like to turn this into a book. And so I found myself slaving away at the computer for 20 hours a day for 6 months. And to answer your question, then this pandemic happens, like the speed of this. Everything that I had talked about in the book, which was in the next recession, the Federal Reserve, it doesn't have any room to lower rates. So they'll immediately lower it to 0. And for every 1% away from 5%. So if it's 2, they'll drop to 0. And for every 1%, they'll need to print somewhere around $3 trillion. And that was based on some white papers that had been done from at the Federal Reserve and what types of policies they could enact in case these things would happen. And so when COVID happened, here we are. The Fed cuts interest rates. At the time, they were 1.25%, and they cut to 0.75%. And I saw it as, okay, this is the beginning. That was on March 3rd. By March 15th, they had cut to 0. By June, they had added $3 trillion to the balance sheet. And everything I was saying in the book was happening real time. And that was where it got kind of a bit crazy for me, because the timeline between book submission and then book being in a store is like 5 months, 6 months. So I turned in the manuscript on February 14th, at a time when the stock market was literally at all-time highs. Donald Trump's ratings were at all-time highs. This is before pandemic. And in the course of 6 weeks, that all changed. And the book of, prophecy turned out to be a book of news.
Yes.
Right? So the publisher allowed me to rewrite the first chapter. I did that. And then we put addendums at the end of each chapter to say, what happens just a few weeks later, and how all of the things that I'd been talking about in the chapter were starting to play out and come true. So that's kind of the story of the book and how we got there.
So let's unpack some of this, because I always viewed gold as something that everybody should have a little bit of as a hedge.
Yep.
And I'm sure many other people have said it, but you're the person that convinced me that forget about it being a hedge. Gold is a good investment. Let's unpack some of your thinking on that.
So let's start with one idea, and that idea is we have choices of where to put our investment dollars. Okay, you can put it in stocks, put it in bonds, you can put it in real estate, you can put it in commodities, you can put it in gold. So it's really, to me, relative. Okay, gold is gold good or bad, or stocks good or bad, or bonds good or bad? They all have their purpose at certain points in time. It's relative to what you could be doing, which is where it becomes interesting. And, gold is a better way. Just highlighted one very simple fact, which is Wall Street tells us to own stocks and bonds, and yet gold has dramatically outperformed stocks and bonds over a very long period of time. And my summary on why that is in a growth environment, paper assets are what you want to own. In a debt environment, you want to own gold. Because ultimately, gold, and this is what most people really don't get, Gold is simply a referendum on the US dollar. That's all it is. It's a referendum on our currencies. And so, if you think about it in that framework, 90 years ago, a $20 bill and one gold coin were the same. They were equal, okay? It was the value of gold. They were interchangeable, by the way. We were on a gold standard. So you could walk into a bar with a gold coin. You could walk in with a $20 bill and buy the whole bar drinks if you wanted. And they were the same, okay? By 1971, 1 ounce of gold was $42. By the year 2000, 1 ounce of gold was $250. Today, gold's somewhere around $2,000. So gold has gone up 100 times over the last 90 years relative to the dollar. And I believe you're going to see gold relative to the dollar rise to dramatically higher levels than this, and why I'm buying as much as I possibly can.
So that's interesting you bring that up. So first off, you talk about the massive increase in value in 90 years. Is it too late? I mean, is gold, should people wait for it to go back down?
Well, I have some big thoughts on that. Number one, I think gold is among its most undervalued in history right now. See, relative to the stock market, okay, there's a chart we could put up that has gold relative to the S&P 500. In 2011, it was 1.7x the S&P 500. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think the S&P 500 was around 1,200 points, and gold was around $1,800. And so it was 1.7x to the S&P 500. Today, gold is about 0.55x the S&P 500. So relative to stocks, gold is dramatically undervalued from where it was just 9 years ago, okay? Keep in mind, relative to its own price, gold hit $1,925 an ounce 9 years ago. We're just back there now. So relative to its own price, it's not, it's just back where it was 9 years ago. But it gets even more interesting than that, because relative to treasuries, gold has never been a better opportunity. See, the big knock on gold is it doesn't pay a dividend. Okay, that's why Warren Buffett and other very smart investment minds have said gold has no utility, doesn't pay a dividend, and therefore it's not something I want to own. And my argument in the first book was, yeah, but gold's up 5 times and the stock market's up 2 times. That sounds like something I want to own. But now the real rate on the 10-year Treasury is negative 1%. So that's the real rate when you factor in inflation versus what the 10-year Treasury is giving you. It's a negative 1%. So gold, while doesn't pay a dividend, it doesn't cost you 1% to hold. And that's why you're seeing gold get a lot of new attention. I brought up Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is someone who has set the mindset for investors for the last 30 years. He's been a big critic of gold for a long time. And frankly, as someone who is so passionate about gold and believes in gold, talks to people about gold, the one comment that would be thrown at me was Warren Buffett doesn't believe in gold. And so that's a pretty tough one to overcome. Well, on the day that the Great Devaluation hit #1 on the Wall Street Journal, a friend of mine called me. And he said, how validating is it that your book is #1 on the Wall Street Journal? How validating is that for you? On that same day, Buffett had announced his new holdings. Buffett, for the first time, ever bought gold. And I said, it's not nearly as validating as the fact that Warren Buffett just bought gold. And to me, there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to think about when you're considering what's going on there. Well, Warren Buffett is a value investor. Okay, gold was $1,950 on the day that was announced. So he thinks at $1,950, gold's undervalued. I don't think he'd be taking a big position in gold if he thought gold was going to 1,000. Okay, so I think Warren Buffett thinks this is a very undervalued price. I think he's looking at some of the things I just mentioned. And why it's so important. See, my book could be #1 on the bestseller charts for 10 years. It wouldn't do for gold what that one move did. Remember, Warren Buffett is the champion of the passive index investing model, okay? In 2008, about 10% of the money in the market was in passive index funds. And he made a bet with Protégé Partners, and his bet was, I bet the S&P 500, a low-cost index fund, will outperform any hedge fund manager over the next decade, and I'll bet any manager that wants $1 million for charity. And one hedge fund took it. It was Protégé Partners. They got smoked, okay? And passive index investing became the rage. And Warren Buffett, remember, after the housing collapse, we were scared. Okay, there was blood in the streets, the stock market had come, no one was sure of what was coming next, and what did he do? He bailed out the banks. He bailed out AIG. He bought a railroad. He doubled down on America and said, hold America forever, and his certainty literally led the charge for the stock market over the last decade. And the passive index investing now accounts for over 50% of the market. And I think that mindset shift that he began a decade ago happened for a couple of very good reasons. And I talk about them in The Great Devaluation.
Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo para dar la alegría cosa buena. Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo para dar la alegría cosa buena. Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo para dar la alegría cosa buena. Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo para dar la alegría cosa buena. Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena.
On the outside of Miguel. Lionel Messi! Brilliant!
Again, everybody, today Satguru shares another top 10 rule for success, and that is this: take a holiday from seriousness. And I love this, and I know it's something that I need to work on. I tend to be an intense person. I want to get better. I want to always be the best I can be, but I got to remember to also relax and just realize that this path to personal growth and development is never ending. It is extremely hard. I'd say maybe 95 to 98% of the world doesn't even want to try to get on that path of infinite mind wealth because it is so intimidating. However, we got to enjoy the moments to moments. We got to enjoy when we make mistakes, because that's how we know we're getting closer. And we got to be able to laugh at ourselves. And I think this is one thing I got to work on. So if you're feeling intimidated, you don't know where to begin, laugh at yourself as you try to even begin, and just really enjoy and appreciate yourself. Have a great day, everybody.
Procrastination basically
means that you are not doing what you know you need to do when you know you need to do it. It's putting things off because in the short term, it's easier, more pleasurable to be distracted or to indulge yourself doing something else than it is to sit down and do the actual work to create the outputs that matter when they are needed. And I know that every single one of us procrastinates. Me too, so it's okay. The issue is, can you set yourself up so you do less of it? I believe you can. There are very important emotional things you can do to procrastinate less. You know, most procrastination is either tied to worry, the emotion of worry, like I'm worried that if I do it, it won't turn out well, or I'm worried it's gonna be too hard and I can't handle it. If you ever feel like you're procrastinating, sit down with a journal and say, what am I worried about? What happens is unconsciously, we're not aware of our worries, so we keep thinking it's the task's fault. And we start blaming ourselves and we start having like these esoteric kind of conversations with ourselves about life's meaning. Instead, what's happening is unconsciously, we're a little worried about something. And if we can bring that worry into our awareness, then we can examine it and start building the case that that's not something we should be worried about. That is something we can truly handle.
Need motivation? Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation because I love it.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I quit on my business partner. I struggled to keep going. I was making $300 a month and felt like a complete failure. And the thing that saved me, that pulled me up, was studying the stories of famous entrepreneurs. I got the motivation from them. I also got the strategies of what to do next so that I can go off and achieve my dreams. And quite honestly, I still need the stories today myself to continue my motivation to take it to the next level. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Brendan Burchard, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is learn to prioritize tasks.
Do you feel like this week you were rapidly moving towards the completion of a major project in your life? I mean, do you feel like you made major strides? I think every Friday is a good day to wake up and say, did I make major strides this week? Or was I kind of all over the place? And major strides mean there is a direction towards your efforts. You're not just randomly doing everything because they emailed you about it. You have a clear sight to where you're trying to go. You got some clear projects lined up. Even if they're only lined up for the next 30 days, that's okay. You don't have to be able to see 5, 10, 15, 20 years out to be able to organize the next 30 days. Does that make sense? I'll be an example. I don't know where I'll be exactly in 10 years. I know I'll still be doing this. For me, I'll be writing and I'll be teaching, but I don't know how that might be. I might be doing it by, in 10 years from now, I might be, 100% hologram. I mean, in 10 years from now, I might be on your kitchen table right now in front of you. Yeah, creepy, I know. But, we don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. But I hope you know what's going to happen in the next 30 days. Do you know what's going to happen in the next 30 days? Do you know what you're going to make happen in the next 30 days? I've found that that's how high performers think. They are clear on the major projects and initiatives in their life. And they have taken all the tasks that are required to make those projects and initiatives happen, and they've organized them into buckets of projects or initiatives. A huge piece of high performance in all the coaching I do, and I've been blessed to coach billionaires, so please don't anyone say, well, this doesn't apply to me, I already know it. Because the worst thing you can ever do in your personal development is go, yeah, I already know. It's not do you already know, it's do you implement with unbelievable amounts of focus, discipline, and consistency. I don't care if you know the topic. You might already know block time. Yeah, Brendan, I've heard you teach block time. That's fine. That's why I'm here live with you, coaching you every single month to ask a question. Good. I'm glad you know block time. Did you do it last week effectively? Is it clearly scheduled this upcoming week? If I zoom out on your calendar, can I see these blocks of time clearly leading to the completion of an initiative or a project? If not, my friend, this is $1 million moment for you. This is the moment where you go, whoa, I need to get more strategic and disciplined in defining my projects, breaking them down, and making sure they land on my calendar. Because if they don't, you're only gonna do what the world gives you. And if you only do what the world gives you, you will always be a reactive person. And if you are always a reactive person, you'll never be capable of adding the value that you know you can add in the world.
Rule number 3 is make a plan.
Do you have a plan? Is it written down? Is it on a wall? Is it executable? Is it a plan that serves your business growth goals, but also your lifestyle, your life goals? If you think about the next 6 months of your business, again, which is your Super Bowl in our industry, like, what's your plan? What's your plan this month, next month, the month after that, the month after that? Get together a plan. If you don't have a plan yet, you're still like, I don't know what I'm going to offer, or I'll figure out my new offer next month. You're cheating yourself, and you're going to fall into a lower sentiment. You're going to experience less progress. Don't keep thinking, oh, I just need to keep learning. I need to keep learning. No, put a plan in place. Make a decision. What's the offers? When are we going to launch them? What's the evergreen? What's going to be running? Like, 1 or 2 serious decisions today about your plan changes everything. The benefit that many of you have, as my friend does, is they have money. You know, they have sufficient money to survive, sufficient money to have abundance or give something to kids. And what I found over and over and over in this space specifically, people with money, more often than anyone else, fails to make a plan because they don't have to. And this is a transition. They're transitioning from one thing into another. They're in a moment of transition. And so they're like, you know what? I'm comfortable. I'm safe. I actually don't have to do anything. I'll just keep learning. I'll keep engaging. I like the learning. But at some point, they never make the plan, and that cheats them from the progress, that cheats them from the impact, and then their sentiment goes down. Even if they're in the right group, or they got the good business, or they do know how to help people. They just never made a plan and executed it. And people like you in a group like this, there is a high achievement mindset that needs to know that you are executing against a plan. This is what happens when people retire. They had a plan in their career. They had work plans and teams. And then they retire and they forget to make a plan. And a month goes by, they're all right. Maybe even a year, maybe even 2 years of decompression. But at some point, they kind of could start not just going stir crazy, they lose self-esteem. Their mental health goes down. Humans are goal-driven human people. We have to have a goal, a plan, and be moving towards it to sense that we are activating our potential. Our sense of our potential is often tied to having a plan.
Rule number 4 is recognize your value.
Strive and serve free from outcome. Those of you who read any Eastern philosophies or spiritual work, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita, whether it's, Buddhism, whether it is more ancient ways of thinking, the idea was show up, work hard, help other people, but free yourself from the expectation of the outcome. This is hard because a lot of people have mattered, but they didn't get the outcome they thought. So they didn't integrate that they mattered. Does that make sense? They're like, I thought if I did that for other people, I'd become famous. And so they don't feel like they mattered. Because what they're focusing on is, did I become famous? Did not? No, then I don't matter. Versus focusing on, I showed up and helped people. Meaning, if you're emphasizing the perfect outcome versus engaging in the process, you will rarely feel like you matter. Your focus is on this thing that you can't control or contribute to. And if there's no connection to that outcome in your mind, you go, well, I guess I didn't matter. I guess I did all that. I did all that. I didn't matter. I was talking with a mom recently. She has a daughter who just turned 22 years old. And for the first 21 years of her daughter's life, her daughter liked her. And then her daughter turned 22. She doesn't know why, but all of a sudden at 22, this daughter no longer likes mom. And she feels like she doesn't matter. All of a sudden, I said, well, did you feel like you mattered 5 years ago? She goes, yeah. I said, why? Well, my daughter liked me. I said, so your sense of whether or not you matter in life depends on whether or not in this moment today, someone likes you and approves of you. You see how ridiculous that thinking is? So the process of being an amazing mom for 21 years goes out the door. I don't matter because now my daughter don't like me. I did all that for nothing, focusing on an outcome. And most outcomes are immediate. We forget that outcomes are entirely changeable over a period of time. We lose perspective. We zero in on what's wrong today and we feel wrong versus recognizing this woman made incredible choices throughout her life to care for this daughter. She's got enough meaning and mattering points to last 5 lifetimes for parents who are disengaged and don't care. This woman gave so much, but she never gave herself the gift of feeling like she matters.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is see beyond now.
When people
Eyes open. Everything. And we end as we begin. Legs crossed, back straight, eyes closed. Breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. Well, the truth is, there's no ending. There's no beginning. Today we started, beginning like we always do, with our eyes closed, imagining going into the future. Only you can do that. Only we can do that. It's all possible through the power of our mind and our thoughts. But we have to control that mind and those thoughts. Because even they are not who we really are. To control our minds, to master our minds, we have to simply be here, now, present. That's our super determination. Imagine all of us united with our thoughts, mind and body as one, all together, right now. That in itself is infinite intelligence. So as we end today, with our eyes closed, our back straight, our legs crossed, we know the truth. We're not really ending. It's never really over. We were all born to win. To be happy, peaceful, loving, kind, caring, mind wealthy, no matter what. That's the truth. The way we do that is now. Right now. That's why they call it presence. This is the greatest gift we have. Right now. all so much. Have a great day, determination.